Welcome to Complete Football Africa. We're very proud tonight to be probably the first channel in the world, and definitely the first channel in the African continent to congratulate Morocco for its World Cup victory. When you look at their match where they beat Argentina 2-0, you realize that from every step of this tournament, Morocco has been going beyond the expectations of Africans and people all over the world. This is what I mean. They had a match against Spain, and I and probably every other person who has no imagination said that Morocco was going to lose that game. We said that Morocco came second to South Africa in the AFCON under 20, and they're a good team, but they're not ready for the likes of La Roya. They ended up beating Spain. I can't remember what the score was, but they beat Spain, and it was decisively. I want to say it was 2-1. I'm probably wrong, but they beat Spain decisively. Yeah, they actually beat Spain 2-0. Beat Morocco. They beat Brazil in a close game, 2-1. Then they started to take down the big giants. They took down the USA, which was one of the favorites, 3-1. Then they had a close one against France, in which they won with penalties. And then in the finals, they whopped Argentina 2-0. But the point I'm making is that throughout the whole tournament, Morocco has not been the underdog when you look at the game on the pitch. They have not been overwhelmed by any team. And it's clear that by far, they are the best team in the world. They beat Brazil, they beat USA, they beat France, and they beat Spain. These are the four powerhouses. And throughout the tournament, it never seemed in doubt that they would win any match that they were playing in. So we have to ask ourselves this question. A Morocco team that lost to South Africa in the under 20 by a lone goal, what is responsible for this fantastic performance in which it's not luck, it's not circumstance, it's not complex, it's not debatable. They were clearly the best team in this championship. And I think if they had played 30 games in this championship, they would have won 30 matches. They did lose to Mexico, but that was after they qualified. So what it looks like is that Morocco is unbeatable. The Moroccan under 20 team right now is unbeatable. Why is it this way? Let's start off with South Africa. South Africa beat Morocco 1-0 in the AFCON championships for under 20. And my theory is that Morocco is a team that is very well organized on defense and has the most lethal counterattack that we see in football. So what they do is they absorb as much pressure as you have, and then with their wings and their forwards and then their transition and their attacking midfielders, they make you pay for it when they get the ball back. That wouldn't work against South Africa because South Africa actually has a better defense than Morocco and is disciplined and sound. So Morocco was never able to capitalize off the transition the way it can off of European teams like France, Spain, and also South American teams like Argentina, which are very explosive offensively and will be liable to being too fast and too reckless and will pay the price against Morocco. So this is why Morocco could come second in the African Nations Cup to South Africa, but could beat the rest of the world because the rest of the world uses high press and uses a dangerous style of football, whereas South Africa uses a more moderate and less aggressive system of play. South Africa fell apart because it didn't have they did well, but they didn't go as far as they could have because they didn't have enough offensive firepower and enough explosiveness on their counter. Morocco's counterattack is fantastic. This is thanks to the selfless work of their defensive squad and their midfield, but also in conjunction with the guys who actually get things going on the counter break. You have Gassimi Yassin, who had 3 assists in this tournament. You have Uthman Mama, who I think is a midfielder. Yassin is a forward. I think he's an attacking midfielder who had 3 assists. And you have my favorite, Yasser Zabiri, who had 3 goals. Now, these guys also, when you look at what they do with Yassini had 3 assists. Uthman Mama had 3 assists, as I said. But then you have Zabiri, who had 3 goals, who's a fantastic forward. I think he scored 2 goals in the finals. And then with Yassin not only had 3 assists, but he had 2 goals. Uthman had 1 goal. To me, Yassin was the spark of that team. He could score goals, and also he could give assists. So he's basically someone whose range goes from the midfield up into the attack, and he's the key to that team. So what they did was they had some very good playmakers who could also finish very well, and that's why they won. And they were the class of the tournament because There was no game in which they were dominated. In every game, they dominated. They were vigorous and they had a lot of energy. They don't use a high press, as I said. They're very moderate in how they play, but their counterattack is fantastic, which means they are well drilled. Now we have to ask ourselves the question, why is this? Why is this team better than anything team we've seen? It's because the royal family of Morocco has done what Barcelona has done, what Spain has done in Barcelona with La Roya. They've made a long-term 10 to 20-year program in which they put the objective of winning the championship. And also they have links to France. So a lot of their players get to go play in France. A lot of them were born and lived in France and get to play in Europe and have very good training. But Morocco has spent hundreds of millions, if not millions. I don't know the exact number, but they spent a ton of money to train and use the right methodology to move forward. I could give you the example of Nigeria, which has a lot more talent than Morocco. Nigeria is a country of 200 million people, but it's not well organized. Its league isn't well organized, and it doesn't have an academy which takes a bunch of guys from a young age and pushes them through into the future together. So Morocco used money. They used money because they have a lot of money because of where they're located in the world and the resources that have to go through to Morocco to Europe. They used a lot of money to prepare properly. South Africa prepares properly and is using a lot of money too, not as much because they have to go through advertising and things, whereas the Moroccan government pumped everything. So, but the difference between South Africa and Morocco, I really think, is that the Moroccan players play in Europe and they know how the Europeans play, so they know how to counter them. The South Africans play mostly in their league and haven't been exposed and are good and can beat Morocco in Africa. But once it goes to the World Cup, when you're dealing with all different types of teams and systems, the Moroccans were prepared. And they're just as good as South Africa when it comes to defensive formations and everything. South Africa might be a little bit better, but the difference is that their players have a lot more imagination and vigorousness on the counter and in finishing because that's what they focus on. South Africa has never really done well in that style of play. What they do is they play very well defensively. They hold the ball, they get more possession, and then they struggle very hard to score goals. Morocco doesn't struggle to score when they get counters. They never make mistakes out of counters. If it's 2v1, 1v1, even if they're outnumbered a little bit, they're a lot more polished. And I think it's because a lot of their players play in Europe. So they know that style. South Africa will catch up. South Africa has to start. I know the South Africans are very patriotic and they don't want to admit that some of their players have to play in Europe. But if South Africa wants to win in the World Cup, whether it's under 20 or senior, they have to start sending their players to other leagues. They always say, oh, no, we can't send our players to other leagues. Are you saying that those people are better than us? Yes, they are. And let me tell you why they're better than you. Because they're exposed to all styles of football, while you're only exposed to what's going on in your league. Hold on to your league, hold on to your players, but you have to spread out. But today is about Morocco, so I won't talk about that. I just want to talk about the fact that they did very well. And throughout the whole tournament, at the end of the tournament, if you look at every match they played, where they beat Spain, they beat France, they beat US, they smashed Argentina, which was, I thought, by far the best team in this league. Argentina was undefeated. They smashed them 2-0. So it's clear to say that they didn't get lucky. They won because they are the best. This is complete football Africa. We want you to like, share, and subscribe, and let's keep on pushing our voices. No more ESPN or Sky Sports. Thank you very much.